Here we are again, the Animal Stories News Team Acreman. Here's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Lar. And there's him, in person.
Hi.
Little snot-nosed Tommy. Hi, Tommy.
Hi, Uncle Lar. Hi, everybody.
According to police in Willenhall, England, a horse-drawn cart of scrap drew up behind a motorcyclist at a railroad crossing gate, which was down to allow a train to pass. The horse proceeded to drool on the cyclist. Here's some biker, little Tommy, sitting there on his big Harley, minding his own business, waiting for this train to go by. Horse pulls up, starts drooling. So he got mad, it says here. Gave the horse his best elbow shot right to the horse's face. Well, but in the process, when he lifted up his arm to give this horse an elbow shot, he let go of his clutch. And his motorcycle lurched forward, little Tommy, into the car in front of him. Meanwhile, the horse, who has just been punched in the face, rears up, dumps the load of scrap onto the car behind, which rolled backwards under the weight and rammed the front of yet another car on the line. Now, seeing this chain reaction, a passing dog walker tied his terrier to the railroad gate and went to help out. But the train had passed, and the gate went up, pulling the dog 20 feet into the air. By his neck. See, the dog's owner shouted to another pedestrian to lower the gate, which came down on and damaged the roof of a passing Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how it doesn't say how the dog is. I suppose it would depend on which side of the gate he was tied to. If he was on the side that came crashing down to the Mercedes-Benz, the dog probably not going to be okay.
New ornament, yeah. Biker all right?
Biker's fine, little Tommy.
How about the horse?
Horse is fine as well.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. I was reading this article in the news about attacking guard dogs that work for the Department of Defense. They got a lot of them. They got about 2,400 dogs that work for the government. They sniff out bombs, of course, and they patrol Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marine bases to attack commies who try to sneak on the base.
Yeah?
As well as government agencies like the FAA and the U.S. Border Patrol. They train them to eat illegal aliens. Says here, little Tommy, they test thousands of dogs. Most of them just can't cut it. Only about 17% qualify to be a U.S. government attack dog. Says they are tested for, when they get a new dog, they test it for maturity and aggressiveness in a variety of ways. And the first thing they look for, this is the most important, first thing they look for in a male dog is his urination pattern. Says here, little Tommy.
What do you mean?
Well, when a dog reaches a year old, if he is given the opportunity to urinate on a pole or a fence, but he still squats, it shows immaturity, and he is therefore unacceptable. So, if they get a squatter, they just wash him right out. They think he's some sort of wimp dog who probably eats quiche.
Yeah?
But if they lift that leg up there and let fly, he's a born killer.
Oh, wow. What else do they look for?
I don't know. I don't care. Imagine the poor soldier, though, who gets that kind of duty. He's assigned to that test. Has to stand around all day and watch
with a
dogs.
Clipboard, yeah.
Watch, study urination patterns. How depressing.
Have a nice day today, honey.
What did you do during the war, Daddy? I watched dogs whiz. This happened on 7th Avenue in Aurora, little Tommy. Headline here says, slaughter on 7th Avenue. I'll just read this here, the way it's written in the paper. A 39-year-old Aurora man was charged Monday with violating a city code against slaughtering a farm animal in the city. Police said the man killed a sheep in his front yard and was skinning it when police were called.
Oh, my gosh.
The man told police that he had bought the animal from a Yorkville farmer and was butchering it for his own use. Police were called by neighbors who said the act was upsetting their children.
What'd they do to him?
Well, they just,
Gave him a ticket?
They confiscated the carcass of the late sheep and took it to the city's animal control officer to be disposed of or to be properly butchered, it says here.
Yeah.
And he's been charged with violating the city code against slaughtering sheep in the city. So, you people in Aurora, just another one of your many freedoms that's being taken away from you. And, of course, that kind of activity in the neighborhood certainly wouldn't do property values any good, little Tommy. You can imagine some poor real estate agent driving down that street with a prospective home buyer and hear some guy with his shirt off on the front lawn butchering a sheep. And he's saying, oh, well, this is really a nice neighborhood. Nice people, friendly. This is something that was sent to us by, her name is Val Kilcury. She works for an advertising agency here in Chicago, Darcy McManus.
Oh, big one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. She sent me a thing here. She Xeroxed this out of D Magazine. That's a magazine they have in Dallas. It's like Chicago Magazine, only they call it D for, like Big D.
I get it.
And this article here about lyrics in country and western songs. They got some real interesting lyrics in cowboy songs. Most of them are drinking and cheating songs, the kind you hear in pickup bars and pickup trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody made a collection of just, weird lines in country songs, and they printed them all. There's several hundred of them here. Title of this article, and I guess this is a line from some country and western song, is, I don't know whether to kill myself or go bowling. So I just circled some of these I've heard of, few of them, but most of them I never heard the songs before. Here's a line from a song. It took a hell of a man to take my Ann, but it sure didn't take him long.
I like that, yeah.
She ain't much to see, but she looks good through the bottom of a glass.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one. That's a good one.
I wouldn't take you to a dogfight, even if I thought you could win. Don't cry down my back, baby. You might rust my spurs. If fingerprints showed up on skin, I wonder whose I'd find on you. Here's a good one. If you get the feeling that I don't love you, feel again. Here's one. Obviously, there's some guy singing this song, and he's in some cheap floozy's bedroom at the time. I'm ashamed to be here, but not ashamed enough to leave. That kind of sums up our situation here at WLS, too. Ashamed to be here, but not ashamed enough to leave. We'll just take the money. Thank you. I've been flushed from the bathroom of your hearts.
Oh, I want to hear it.
Okay, you really wonder about guys who write lyrics like this,
Sure.
how much drinking they've been doing. It's the bottle against the Bible in the battle for Daddy's soul. Here's one I really like. It's commode huggin' time in the valley. If you want to keep the beer real cold, put it next to my ex-wife's heart. My wife ran off with my best friend, and I miss him. Oh, I wish we could play some of those songs.
Oh.
Here's a letter. Dear Uncle Lar Li'l Tommy, due to personal tragedy and heartbreak, I have not filed a report in over 2 years. 2 gut-wrenching years, which became a nightmare for me when I lost my wife, kids, house, car, and Sears Mediterranean-style TV set.
Oh, sounds like a nightmare.
Sounds like she got the gold mine, he got the shaft. I've meant to write to you, however, with the lure of bright lights, demon alcohol, and a constant parade of floozies, I'm having the time of my life. But that's no excuse to turn my back on the 2 guys who made me a star back in the days when I still had an AM/FM digital clock radio with snooze alarm. With this in mind, I humbly and respectfully submit this report from the October 12 issue of the Weekly World News. That's one of those tabloids at the grocery.
Oh, guys, he working for them now?
Check out. Shark experts say here that most shark attacks are a case of mistaken identity. They note that seldom do sharks bite more than once, which would be an indication that sharks do not like human flesh. And they say in most instances the indications are that part of the body, such as a hand or a foot, is mistaken for a fish. I certainly hope, little Tommy, that if I'm ever down there in Florida surfing and some shark mistakes some dangling part of my body for a fish, I sure hope it's my hand or foot. Dear Uncle Lar Li'l Tommy, after a recent snowstorm in the Chicago area, a friend of mine accidentally discovered an unusual method of removing dog waste. Being a rather lazy individual, he hadn't cleaned up his yard all winter, and with the new snow covering everything, probably the least likely thing to be in his mind when he got out his snowblower was dog waste. Well, needless to say, he was somewhat startled when he heard this clattering noise coming from the machine, and then, to his horror, saw this frozen dog do hurtling onto his neighbor's roof. He immediately turned off the snowblower, and then, having recovered from the initial shock and inspired by the fact that his neighbor had ripped him off for $20 last summer, proceeded to turn the blower back on and gleefully aim the rest of his dog's frozen droppings in the direction of the first one. My friend is now eagerly awaiting the big thaw and anticipating his neighbor's amazement when he investigates the source of the foul odor, climbs up to his roof to discover all of this dog mess quietly steaming in the warm spring sunshine, and wondering what on earth kind of animal climbs up onto his roof to relieve itself.
Oh, I love it.
Well, here's one more story about a guy in New York who's got a service going for husbands. It's called Rent a Sheep. Now, this is for lazy husbands who are too lazy to mow their lawns.
Oh, yeah?
Little Tommy.
Oh, it's for lawns?
It's a good deal. He will rent you a sheep for the whole summer to mow your lawn and whatever else you wanted to
Yeah.
do for $35.
It's not called You Rent All, is it?
No,
Oh.
no. Got a couple of interesting country and western song titles in the mail here.
Oh, yeah?
Don't cut any wood, baby, because I'll be coming home with a load. I loved her face, but I left her behind for you.
I like those.
Yeah, those
Sound
are
like
good.
hits to me.
Don't cut any wood, baby, because I'm coming home with a load. Here's a story about a guy who went to the zoo in Omaha, Nebraska. Well, Tommy, he was just standing there looking at the elephants. And some big stud elephant in the pen there apparently didn't like the guy's looks. Picked up a big rock with his trunk. Little Tommy, a rock was about the size of a brick. Threw it at the guy, hit him right in the head. Fractured his skull.
Oh, no. Is he making faces at the elephants?
I don't know, but now he's suing the zoo for zillions of dollars, claiming negligence on their part for letting one of their elephants throw rocks at him.
Didn't he see it coming? Couldn't he get out of the way? Oh, is he going to be all right?
Yeah, he's going to be fine, little Tommy. Elephant must have good speed, along with being a good shot. Guy didn't even have time to duck.
Yeah.
Here's a love story concerning some giraffes at the zoo in Portland, Oregon. They had a big stud giraffe named Jigsaw and a female giraffe named Puzzle.
Oh, Jigsaw and Puzzle.
Yeah, they were lovers. But then Jigsaw, he died back in '75. And Puzzle been without male companionship, for the last 7 years. So you can imagine how up for it she was. Well, finally the day came, little Tommy. They imported a stud giraffe from Dallas, Texas.
What was his name?
I like this name for a giraffe. His name was Stretch.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Puzzle, she was all excited about it. They ran him into her pen. He snorted, pawed the ground, and then promptly knelt down and tried to nurse from her. The little problem they have there with Stretch, he doesn't seem to get the drift of just exactly what his function is supposed to be at the zoo.
Kind of a mama's boy, huh?
Yeah. Here's a letter from the Indiana Department of Correction.
Oh, my gosh.
Youth camp there. He writes, Dear Uncle Lar and Little Tommy, this article enclosed isn't even newsworthy, but then again, few things in the Terre Haute Star are. He said in this stupid animal story, and he's right, it's not even interesting enough to read. It's just that I've longed for so long to send something, anything, to your award-winning program. You can probably imagine how difficult it is to adequately cover the animal news from my location. I know this article leaves everything to be desired, but please keep in mind that my efforts to provide more interesting articles are hampered by considerations beyond my control.
What's he doing time for, do you know?
Yeah. We get a lot of letters from people in prisons, and they never say what they're up for. And
They're probably embarrassed.
let us know what you're in there for. How come you're paying your debt to society?
And if you were framed or not.
And why you're behind bars where you belong. Keep those letters coming. We're your friends. It's a good idea to be nice to these guys, because eventually they may get out.
Yeah.
And come after you if you're not nice to them. Hearing the story the other day about the rock-throwing elephant prompts me to share with you my encounter at the zoo with the flinging baboon.
Oh, gee.
While visiting the Phoenix Zoo, we strolled up to the baboon pit. Other than the baboons, my wife, son, and myself, the only other living nearby creatures were a group of tourists of indiscriminate origin, taking turns photographing one another in front of the baboon pit. One of the baboons, whom I have nicknamed Dr. Skyhook for reasons which shall become apparent, proceeded to defecate into his left hand, then with a look of disdain only a baboon can affect, sent his malodorous parcel in a graceful hook shot toward the babbling tourists. The tourists watched with childlike fascination as the baboon droppings arced gracefully over the bars and into their midst, and not unlike an MX missile, the parcel broke up into several separate projectiles, allowing several of the tourists to be pelted simultaneously.
Wow. Oh.
So far as I know, no lawsuits have resulted, although we did not stay at the scene much longer, since Dr. Skyhook began to assemble earlier droppings for additional ammo.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Oh, here's a real bizarre story about a rhinoceros, little Tommy, sent to us by some guy named Rick something. Cut this out of the Washington, D.C. Post. Well, they were shipping this big 1,200-pound rhinoceros from Florida to an amusement park in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
There's a female white rhino. It's a 20-hour truck ride. This rhino, little Tommy, and they got her there in Washington, D.C. and opened up the crate. There she was, laying there unconscious, suffering from respiratory ailments and had a broken horn on her head there.
Oh, no. What happened?
Well, it turned out somebody made a mistake when they... Somebody had made a mistake, little Tommy, when they'd loaded her up down there on the truck down in Florida and accidentally loaded the crate on the truck upside down. So this poor rhino rode for 20 hours on the back of a truck in a crate that was upside down. Of course, she had a lot of trouble breathing there, and that's why she was unconscious and had these respiratory problems.
Yeah?
And that's how her horn got broke from her head just banging. Help! So they opened up the crate at Washington, D.C. when she finally got there, and there she is there upside down, so they got her turned over.
Oh,
and
good.
After a while, she regained consciousness and promptly charged, attacked two of the employees of the amusement park. She is rampaging around there trying to kill everybody in sight, little Tommy. They got a tranquilizer dart gun out. Let her have it. and then, well, they must have put too much tranquilizer in the dart, little Tommy, because she died. Indeed, a tragic tale. Well, Tommy and I, as you can tell, are overcome with emotion here, and we'll be resuming animal news as soon as we regain our composure. And I think it's coming back now, even as I speak. Oh, I think you're going to be excited about this gift we got in the mail, little Tommy.
Oh, good.
He writes, Dear Uncle Lar and little Tommy, having been inspired by your animal product story concerning that poor guy at the disco in Chemung. Remember that one?
Oh, with the tight pants?
Says I have purchased for you your very own official Animal Stories disco kit.
Oh, good.
See what he sent us here, little Tommy, is a big, hefty hickory smoked sausage here from Rath's Blackhawk.
Yeah.
Now, little Tommy, I'm going to show you how this official disco kit works. Now, first, I'm going to hypnotize you, okay? You close your eyes.
Okay.
I'm going to hypnotize you just like I did that chicken in our movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you close your eyes now. Okay, you're slowly sinking deeper and deeper into a real deep sleep.
Yeah.
Are you there yet? Okay, I want you to imagine that you're undergoing a sex change operation now, and you're no longer little Tommy. You're some cheap, bleached blonde floozy in a disco. Okay?
Oh, yeah, okay.
You're really sleazy. Okay. You stand by now. Don't open your eyes until I tell you. I'm going to install the disco kit here. So you can get an idea of how this works. Okay, now don't open your eyes till I tell you. Now you imagine you're this cheap blonde floozy in the disco, and you see, okay, I'm standing next to John Travolta, okay?
Yeah?
And you walk in, you see me and John Travolta there. Now, admittedly, John Travolta is better looking than I am, but now that I have my disco kit installed, I want you to check this out,
Can
little
I
Tommy.
look now?
Yeah, and tell us which one you'd go for. I mean, you're going to be hitting on me all night, right?
Oh, my gosh.
This, this commands respect, doesn't it? So, we'll keep it here at the office in case you ever want to use it for an evening at the disco. Thank you, Mark. It's one of the most useful gifts we've ever received.
Yeah.
On NBC's Tonight Show, Johnny Carson read an item from the Lost and Found column of a Midwestern newspaper. Lost dog, brown, some hair missing due to mange, blind in one eye, deaf, lame leg due to recent traffic accident, slightly arthritic, answers to the name Lucky. Dear Uncle Lar and Little Tommy, I thought you might be interested in my recent unfortunate encounter with a horse. I am unable to forget the incident, as I still have remnants of it in the grill work and wind deflector of my car. It all began one day as I was driving down I-55 on my way to a golf outing. I was in the right turn exit ramp going about 45 miles an hour, and directly behind a truck that was pulling a trailer containing a horse. The horse's rear end was positioned about 8 feet off the ground and about 2 feet in front of my car when the animal began unleashing several pounds of soft, watery road apples. I was trapped since another car was directly behind me as this tremendous barrage began slamming into the windshield of my car. She says the onslaught was so strong that I had to use my windshield wipers to see in front of us. My sunroof was open at the My sunroof was open at the time, but fortunately the sunroof's wind deflector sent the bombardment over the roof of my car.
Oh, good.
Unfortunately, however, the deflected barrage was sent hurling at 45 miles an hour at the car directly behind me. As I watched, horrified, through my rearview mirror, I saw the driver behind me, a friend who was following me to the golf course, feverishly try to roll up the window to avoid the deflected barrage.
Oh, wow.
Guess what? He didn't make it. His left arm was covered from 2 salvos of this stuff. 3 weeks later, I am still unable to remove all the residue of this incident, even after several car washings. Although this story is not directly from the horse's mouth, but rather from the other end, it is nevertheless true. Headline here says, terrified traveler trapped in trousers. Subheadline, driver tries to hammer out solution when snake hitches ride. What happened here, little Tommy, was this Corydon man is in a pickup truck, and he pulled up in front of the police station. He was frantic. He was blowing his truck's horn. He was yelling and screaming.
Yeah?
Policeman came out. He said the driver of the pickup was all pale and trembling. He was sitting in his truck, clutching his right thigh. And he said, "Thank God you're here." And he explained to this policeman that a snake had crawled up his pant leg while he was driving, see?
Yeah?
And he had tried to kill this snake by striking it through his pant leg with this little 7-pound sledgehammer that he kept in his truck.
Yeah?
But he didn't kill it. Snake kept moving, so he grabbed the snake through the cloth and was holding on. The policeman, he raised the driver's pant leg, but he couldn't see the snake. Maybe, of course, yeah, he lifted up his pant leg. Maybe if he'd unzipped his pants, he could have seen the snake that way. Little Tommy, but then, this is really bizarre. Here, this guy in the pickup, he asked the policeman to get him a knife because he wanted to stab what he thought was the snake's head through his jeans.
Yeah?
But the policeman didn't think that was too good an idea. So finally, little Tommy, what they did was they got a knife and they cut off his pant leg above where the snake was and grabbed him and threw him down to the ground.
Oh, wow.
It turned out it was a 25-inch water snake, but they're non-poisonous, so the guy was never really in any danger. They think the snake may have got in the guy's pickup through a hole in the floorboard that he had recently cut to insert a gear shift stick, see? They examined this guy's leg, and there didn't appear to be any snake bites, but he had a lot of bruises on his leg where he'd been hitting himself with that sledgehammer. His dork's beating himself to death there.
Oh.
You're probably wondering, little Tommy, why didn't the guy just take his pants off?
Yeah, why didn't you just pull over and pull his pants down?
Well, because he says he wasn't wearing any underwear at the time. So, then he asked the policeman to call his fiancée to tell her why he was going to be late because he didn't think that she'd believe him.
Yeah?
Now, that was a good story.
Snake all right?
Doesn't say, little Tommy, what happened to this snake, or whether it was still alive even after he'd been beaten on it with that little sledgehammer. But evidently it must have been still alive because it was still moving even after he'd tried to beat it to death with that sledgehammer. But it doesn't say whether they killed it or just let it go or what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think I got a hold of it here.
Whoops, wrong. Remember that story about the wild Canada goose who got shot in the head by an arrow?
Oh, yeah.
Had the arrow sticking right through its head. Well, I guess they finally trapped that goose, captured it, and rushed it to an animal hospital. And the goose, which was a female, underwent surgery to remove the arrow.
She gonna be all right?
Looks like the goose is going to be fine, little Tommy. In fact, they released her back into the wild kingdom the other day.
Good.
So that she could find a mate. Naturally, she'd been having problems finding a mate with
An arrow through her face.
Well,
yeah.
you can. It'd be kind of like if you were a conventioner in Chicago and you were up on Rush Street looking for a hooker and you saw one with an arrow through its head. That would not be the one you'd pick out. You'd say, well, that's a little too kinky for me. So hopefully this goose will have better luck now.
Oh, yeah.
Headline here says, police gunfire kills steer, sparks investigation.
Oh.
Here's a picture of the steer that killed little Tommy. He's right in the middle of downtown Kankakee there.
Wow, big stud steer, huh?
There's no such thing as a stud steer,
Oh.
little Tommy.
Trick photography, maybe. Or a shadow.
Says, authorities are investigating a wild chase that ended in a hail of gunfire in downtown Kankakee when city and county police officers gunned down a 1,000-pound steer. Witnesses estimate there may have been as many as a dozen gunshots fired in the downtown area. Now, the reason they're having this investigation, little Tommy, is because this incident occurred in broad daylight in the middle of the business district there with lots of people walking down the streets and stuff. And
Yeah.
these police guys are killing this steer in a hail of lead. What happened, this steer escaped when it was being unloaded for an agricultural judging contest at the college there.
Yeah.
And he wandered into town. They said they considered using a tranquilizer gun, but it would have taken 45 minutes for the tranquilizer to take effect.
Yeah. They were busy, were they, at the time? Shift change coming up or something?
There's so much crime in Kankakee that they can only devote so much time to each case. A couple of tragic sidelights to this story, little Tommy. It says a Milwaukee man who was visiting in Kankakee returned to his brand new Mazda, which is parked on the street there, to find 3 bullet holes in it. And what if somebody had been sitting in the car?
You mean they missed and hit the car?
Yeah.
Gee.
And the saddest part of this whole story says, in addition, a tearful 9-year-old boy had to be told that his first 4-H project was dead. That's right, little Tommy. His grandfather had given him this steer to raise, and
Oh, gee.
little boy had planned to show the steer at the county fairs this summer.
Maybe win a couple of ribbons.
He's not going to win many blue ribbons with a dead steer, little Tommy. I'm sure the judges will take points off for that. Well, your steer looks good, but acts too lethargic. He just lays there. He doesn't smell that good. Needs a bath and obviously needs some exercise. Well, dear Uncle Lar and little Tommy, lightning has almost struck twice in Lake Forest. I remember you reporting about the little poodle that weaved its way through the traffic in Lake Forest only to be splattered by a northwestern train. Well, a similar incident happened about a week ago involving a squirrel. My friend and I were on our way to get some lunch in Lake Forest last Saturday when we noticed a squirrel trying to weave its way across the traffic on Western Avenue. We were in a car about 20 yards away from the squirrel when it started to make its way across the street. The squirrel was probably not as mobile as it could have been because its mouth was really stuffed with nuts from the park.
Oh.
Luckily, though, the squirrel scampered across traffic, and my friend and I were relieved that he was safe. Suddenly, two girls who were on a bike ride appeared along the side of the street. They were really flying when the confused squirrel jumped into their path. The girl tried to avoid the squirrel, but he somehow hit the back tire of her bike and got caught up in the spokes.
Oh, gee.
The poor squirrel went around in the wheel several times before he got free and was flung on the grass. To our surprise, the dazed squirrel got to his feet and staggered away, apparently okay.
Oh, good.
The girl who was riding the bike was a little upset, but I'm sure not as much as the squirrel. Luckily, he didn't lose his life, but he might have lost his nuts. That's right. She writes, Dear Uncle Lar and Li'l Tommy, I found this article in the September Prairie Farmer magazine. After reading it, I decided it looked like the disgusting junk that we race to the radio every day to hear. My daughter and I listen to WLS and animal stories every day. This article that she cut out was an article in Prairie Farmer written for swine breeders.
Mm-hmm.
And the article here is entitled, How to Train Your Boar to Be a Better Breeder.
Oh.
It's, how you should treat your big stud hog.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just read you this one kind of interesting paragraph here, little Tommy. It says the boar should be handled with firmness, but never with violence or roughness. If you need to take a boar off a sow, push him off or pull him off, but don't beat him over the head with a shovel. A lot of these farmers, they get rough with their stock.
Oh?
And that's a mistake.
Yeah.
It says if a boar's male ego is destroyed, whether by a sow, another boar, or a careless herdsman, his future as a breeder is diminished.
Yeah.
You can see where that would be discouraging to your big boar. He's up there just doing his job. Somebody starts bashing him over the head with a shovel.
Oh, yeah.
You might think, well, hey, this breeding is a thrill, but I'm not sure it's worth the hassle. Well, little Tommy, here's a couple of country and western song titles that some people made up. You can put me in jail and throw away the key, but you can't keep my face from breaking out. She smoked during instead of afterwards. Man with a big Great Dane, big stud Great Dane,
Yeah?
goes into a bar, leaves his Great Dane tied outside. About a half an hour later, another guy comes running in real excited, and he says, you're not going to believe this, but I think my Chihuahua just killed your dog.
Oh, gee.
Great Dane's owner says, how the hell did that happen? And the other guy says it got stuck in his throat. Have you ever seen, when people put their garbage bags out by the road on garbage day?
Yeah?
You ever seen crows light on those garbage bags and start to rip into them?
Yeah.
They know that there may be something to eat in there because they've learned that. It says here there's a little bird in England, a species of tit,
Uh-huh.
that has learned to open milk bottle caps and drink the milk out. And this just isn't one little bird. This is the whole tit tribe that has learned this trick.
A whole tribe of tits?
Yeah.
Wow.
Every single one of them has learned how to open these milk cap bottles and drink the milk.
How many tits in a tribe?
I don't know, little Tommy, but an interesting trait of the tits for sure.
Wow.
And isn't it ironic that it's milk bottles that they're... Remember that thing we had on the air the other day about how the horse trainers at Santa Anita in California have trained the racehorses to urinate at the command of a whistle so they can test for drugs
Oh, yeah.
after the race? We thought that was really weird and strange, and we'd never heard of it before, but I guess it's quite common. Carolyn says she's been a groom for several years at all the Chicago racetracks and also worked on the East Coast racetracks. And it's the same everywhere, I guess. She says when thoroughbreds or yearlings getting ready to train, their grooms begin whistling whenever they see them urinating so that the horses can associate the two. She writes, my husband has worked for the Illinois Racing Board for several years. His title was vet technician, which is just a fancy name for urine catcher. He's worked at all the Chicago racetracks and the detention barns where a horse is held for testing purposes. After the horses come in from a race, they're walked until they cool down, and they're put into a stall. My husband's job was to go into the stall with the horse and whistle to him until he urinated.
Oh, wow.
He'd stand behind or to the side of the horse, depending on whether it was a male or female horse.
Sure, yeah.
Catching the specimen with a container attached to a long rod. What a fun job.
What do they whistle? Old Man River? Something like that?
I don't know, little Tommy, but I was wondering about that. I thought maybe somebody had to get, hunker down there with a bottle or something. They've got a container on a long rod.
Oh, good for them.
Little Tommy, so they don't get splashed there.
Mm-hmm.
Carolyn says sometimes it takes several hours for a horse to relieve himself because of all the excitement that a race can cause. So I could guess you could be whistling Old Man River for some time. Come on, damn it. I got a date.
Is that a union job?
Here's a heartwarming story, little Tommy. Headline here says, members adopt injured deer. The snow and ice storms that hit Bradford, Pennsylvania this winter adversely affected wildlife as well as people. Near starvation, many animals sought shelter wherever they could. One injured deer chose Emmanuel Church as its refuge. According to the pastor, Emmanuel's congregation adopted the sick buck, which nestled near the church walls. Hundreds of other Bradford residents joined in, feeding the deer apples, greens, and corn. Preschool-aged children attending a daycare center at Emmanuel petted and fed the animal. For nearly 3 weeks, the buck stayed, growing stronger each day. Then, one spring-like day, he decided to leave. As the deer crossed the street in front of the church, he was hit and killed by a pickup truck. Pastor quoted here as saying it will take some time for the congregation members to get over this incident and the deer's loss. Yeah, us too. But I think we'll be over it by tomorrow. Little Tommy, well, that's all the time we have for animal stories today, boys and girls. Tune in again at this same time tomorrow for more highly acclaimed, world-renowned animal stories with your charming and delightful old Uncle Lar.
And Sidekick Little Tommy.
Until then, this is both of us.
Him and me.
Saying...
So long.
Bye! Radio, WLS.
2 hip kicks.